On City TV, as this is the first game that we've Well, good afternoon and welcome here to Dens Park for the first friendly of our pre-season tour here in Scotland. It's a big day for us on City TV as this is the first game that we've ever streamed live through the website, and this pre-match build-up is exclusively for those of you watching through mcsc.co.uk. Well, I'm delighted to say that I'm joined by two gentlemen we both know very well, both legends in their own right. It is, of course, commentator Ali Mann and player extraordinaire Mike Summerby. How are you feeling, gentlemen?
Well, it's always good pre-season, isn't it? It's exciting. But, I mean, thank you for putting me in the same bracket as the legendary Mike over there. That's a very good start to the pre-season. Thank you. And,
Mike, I see that you've already been bombarded by fans this afternoon for autographs.
Well, you know, it's nice to see them here. They make the journeys everywhere. Some of the people there, you know, I see them everywhere I go. But there's one particular person there, a man who came to see me. I was at a funeral on Friday, and he'd driven all the way down from Inverness to this funeral for a City supporter. So really, they're very special people, the City people, that do the travelling they do. It's amazing.
Well, they always have a lot of love for you, Mike, don't they?
Yeah, we do. Yeah, we do.
Well, Ali, I believe that in the last few minutes we just had the team sheet handed to us there. Is this a team that we're probably expecting to see today?
Yeah, in a way, I think it probably is. I mean, this is the kind of time of season where you're going to have a look, or the manager's going to have a look at some of the younger players and see how they can fit in with the senior pros. And we've got the likes of Jason Denier, who's a defender, and Matthias Bassart, another defender, who's going to be part of a youngish back four in many ways, alongside today's skipper, who's Alexander Kolarov, and also Emir Hughes, who's young but has had some loan experience at Birmingham City. So the back four alone tells you that there's that mix that you normally get this time of season, with younger players mixing in with some of the senior pros. A lot of City fans have made the trip, and they'll be looking forward to seeing a couple of new signings. The goalkeeper, of course, Willy Caballero, is going to be in goal today, and that'll be the first look for many of these fans will have had at him. And obviously Fernando, who actually City fans would have seen him when City played against Porto a few years ago in the Europa League, but he's one of those players who you don't really notice, not a prominent player, does a lot of the, dare I say, ugly stuff, but he does it very well, and he's an accomplished player, and he's got Brazilian blood on him, in him, in which even though they've had such a dreadful time the last week or so, still means he's a good player to watch.
And do you think they're the right signings for City? Do you think they'll help us to get that trophy again next season?
Listen, at the end of the day, what you always do is you trust the knowledge of the people who know these things. And in Cheeky Bergerstein and of course the manager Manuel Pellegrini, they didn't do too badly in the recruits they made last summer as City won the title, and I suppose you could call it the double with a League Cup as well. These are players that they've identified as being strengthening in the areas that they believe that City needs strengthening in. I noticed they're still being linked with one or two other players as well. They always will be a club like Manchester City, so I'm sure the summer recruitment won't end there. But with the likes of the two I've mentioned, and of course Bakary Sagna, who comes with a wealth of experience, they're obviously going for players who they know and will do a job. They don't need grooming, shall we say. They can go straight into first team duty. So I'm sure they are the right kind of signings for City. And
you mentioned there about Denier and Bossart. It's a massive opportunity for them, isn't it?
It's always a massive opportunity. It doesn't matter what the circumstances are. If you're a young player who's been playing particularly well in the EDS, and a lot of these guys have been playing exceptionally well in the EDS, they're going to have an opportunity with first team players. And when you do get an opportunity with first team players, A, you grab it, and B, you enjoy it.
Well, Mike, the players have been working hard in Scotland for the past few days. A bit different to your day, isn't it?
Well, not really. No, we used to go abroad occasionally to Stockholm. We used to go occasionally to train there. But I remember going to Crieff many years ago. We trained in Crieff and we played St Johnstone. That's the only time I've ever been to Scotland to play against a league club. I played here in an international match at Hampden Park, but I think it's a great place to come. You know, Scotland. I think, you know, where the team is staying at St Andrews is something quite remarkable when you go and see it.
And just briefly, a score prediction.
What, for today?
For today.
Well, it's just a pre-season game, isn't it? You know, I think that you'll see a good game of football. The pitch is perfect. a chance to see some young players and new signings. We'll win the game, but I mean, I just want it to be an entertaining game. Let the people in Dundee see that Manchester City are a very, very good side, a very, very good club as well.
Thank you very much, gentlemen, and we do hope you enjoy watching the game through mcfc.co.uk.
miss. Well, on the day of the World Cup final itself, with three of their teammates trying to win the greatest prize of all, Manchester City embark on their first match of their extensive pre-season preparations, with a match here at Dens Park against SPL side Dundee. It is an opportunity to not only stretch their legs and get some genuine game time after some hard pre-season training, but it's also an opportunity to start work on one or two new little tactical issues, with an eye on the start of the defence of their Premier League crown, which they won, of course, back in May. It's a magnificent pitch on which to start their pre-season preparations. The pitch is and always has been one of the best in Scotland, and it is noticeable that when they went out to train upon it, there was a lot of happiness and smiling faces, because at this time of the season you're never quite sure with seeding and one or two other issues that take place when groundsmen have just a couple of months to prepare their surfaces for the start of the new campaign. There is silverware on show, of course, because Manchester City can proudly display the Premier League trophy and the Capital One Cup, and the hosts, Dundee, well, they lifted the Scottish Championship on the final day of that particular campaign, and that is what gained them promotion back to the SPL, back to the top division in Scotland after a short absence. And they are a club who have been a little bit of a yo-yo side in recent times, but are now established where they want to be. Those of you who know the area, and particularly the city of Dundee, will be aware that their biggest rivals are Dundee United, and they are quite literally across the road. You couldn't have a ground much closer than the one that is occupied by their bitterest rivals, Dundee United. Tannadice is literally able to be spotted from one of the stands here. There you are, you can just get a glimpse of it in between the stands here at Dens Park. When you think of how close Liverpool and Everton are at Stanley Park, and of course Old Trafford perhaps to the Etihad Stadium, you can't get much closer than this, although I'm sure those of you who are familiar with Nottingham will probably venture to suggest Notts County and Nottingham Forest. Well, out come the players, led out by referee Bobby Madden, who is an official who is expecting to get himself involved in European action in the next couple of weeks as the playoffs take place for the Europa League and the Champions League. He is a top-level official. And Manchester City, you'll notice, are donned in a new kit for the new campaign. The champions in a slightly different coloured blue, and a little bit of trim on the collar and on the sleeves, which mark them out for the new campaign. And there is the first real look at the new kit as donned by the skipper today, Alexander Kolarov, who himself will be in celebratory mood, having extended his contract at the Etihad Stadium, and will be part of the setup till at least 2018. Well, the two sides are very much experimental, as you would expect for this time of the season, and a lot of the Dundee supporters were studying the names of those who were on the team sheet today, because it'll be a first look that they will have at one or two of their players. Manuel Pellegrini, well, he has given a debut today, if you call it a debut when it's pre-season, to Willy Caballero in goals, and of course Fernando, who signed from Porto just a few weeks ago.
Well, let's have a look at the two sides, starting with the hosts, as I mentioned, newly promoted to the top division. They have had a hectic summer with no fewer than 10 new signings. Of the starting 11, James McPate, Kevin Thompson, Grant Adam, Gary Harkins, well, they've only just joined, while Thomas Conrad, Kieran Cadogan and Luka Tilic are all on trial, looking for the opportunity to get a contract here at Dens Park. For City, well as the new faces I mentioned earlier, there are a few that might be as unfamiliar, but shouldn't be if you are regular viewers to Manchester City, because they are EDS graduates, the likes of Matthias Bossarts, Jason Denier, a couple of defenders who are impressing in the EDS, and Emir Hughes, who's come through those ranks but was very impressive when he went on loan to Birmingham City last season, so much so that he actually scored their goal of the season. Plenty of substitutes on both sides, and I was chatting with the referee beforehand, and he gave me an indication that all will be allowed to be permitted, and there is no restriction on the number that are used. So we're likely to see the likes of Micah Richards, who has been mentioned as a potential player to be departing the club in the summer, and Scott Sinclair as well. But you know what, this time of year virtually every player is mentioned in dispatches as having been linked with somebody somewhere, and sometimes we should just take those stories with a pinch of salt. Bobby Madden in charge today. He is fully expecting to be on European duty in a couple of weeks' time. He is a UEFA official and a FIFA official too, as his badge suggests. Well, talking of new faces, Paul Hartley became the manager of Dundee as recently as February, and he has guided them straight back to where they believe they belong, among the elite teams in the Premier League in Scotland. So pre-season is up and running. Manchester City at Dens Park, and a healthy number have made quite a lengthy old journey, round about 285 miles or thereabouts, from northwest England to the east coast of Scotland. And in reality, it is a beautiful day to have made the trip, and temperatures in the early 70s here in Dundee. Bossarts just allowing the ball to just go out of his possession. He'll be as keen as anyone, the 18-year-old, to show the supporters, not just those who are supporting Dundee, but also, perhaps more significantly, those who've made the trip up from Manchester and are watching around the world, exactly what he is capable of. Challenge by Fernando, which was penalised. Well, pre-season friendlies shouldn't be too difficult to referee in terms of the amount of full and, shall we say, hard challenges that are normally committed by the players, but that's not to say that one or two of them won't be trying to impress today. And when you bear in mind there are 3 Dundee players who are playing for contracts, who are on trial, perhaps they may be a little more committed than most. Number 71, Jason Denier, who is nicknamed the Beast, and when you look at his physique, you can perhaps understand why. He's a big fella, only 19 years old, and he's come through the same channels as Vincent Kompany, i.e. through the Belgium system and Anderlecht, and there is a great expectation that he will, like Vincent Kompany, become a first-team Manchester City centre-half. There is Fernando. And Boyata, who has just signed recently a new contract to remain at the Etihad Stadium. I mentioned earlier, of course, the trio of City players who very much are in a competitive match today, representing Argentina against Germany over in Brazil at the Maracanã. And once this game finishes, I'm absolutely certain that their teammates will be gathered around the TV sets at their base at St Andrews, a few miles up the road, and they will be watching and, I imagine, supporting Argentina. Here's Rodwell. Now Navas, who would have wanted to have taken part for Spain in the World Cup. Here's Guidetti. Navas was in the preliminary squad for Spain, but you might recall he ended last season with a bit of a nagging injury, and as a consequence he was unable to convince that he was worthy of a place in the final 23. Here is Rodwell. Now Bossarts. Dundee. Kolarov. Fernando looking to exchange passes with Guidetti, who was impeded. Fouled by Conrad. Free kick taken very quickly. And here is Navas. Just ran into a bit of a Dundee cul-de-sac. And away come the hosts with Willie Dyer. Guided forward by Thompson, gathered in by Tajlikic, and a few olés breaking out among the Dundee supporters as they have their first sustained spell of possession. Harkins, the number 12, just linking the play quite neatly. And Thompson, who is their new skipper, taking up his position in central midfield on the ball now. He was recently at Middlesbrough and was signed for a couple of £1 million when they were trying to build a path back to the Premier League. This hit really by Denier, and Thompson has it. It's a super little ball with the outside of the boot. Dogan trying to dispatch the cross. It was cut out sensibly by Fernando, who does take up those positions on the edge of the area in front of the back four, and he is a very tidy player. Manuel Pellegrini, who won his first title in Europe in his first season in charge of Manchester City, will have started the summer feeling very pleased with not only the squad that he has, but those who have committed to a new contract, and also those new recruits he's managed to add to those who brought him the title back in May. The likes of Samir Nasri, Alexander Kolarov, Dedrick Boyata, all committing to new contracts, new deals. And one of the things that I think he'll be pleased about as well is Stefan Jovetic, who this time last season was struggling with injury, Manchester City's new signing, but there was a lot of talk that if Stefan Jovetic could have a full pre-season, a full summer schedule behind him, he could become a significant player for City. And this campaign might offer him that opportunity, bearing in mind, of course, that Sergio Aguero, as well as having several injury problems, will also have a good month or so off before the start of the new campaign, and will be some way off match fitness when the season starts, which will offer the likes of Jovetic an opportunity to stake his claim. Here is Fernando, who will have a lot of competition in that central defensive midfield area with the likes of Yaya Toure, Fernandinho, and even James Milner, who's played there a few times. Here's Rodwell, getting the return from Guidetti, finding Bossarts. Now Navas, good run by Bossarts, and he has an opportunity to look up and time the ball in, which he does, and Manchester City win the first corner. Headed away by Conrad. Nice break from the teenage fullback. A sensible ball towards Jovetic, but cut out at the near. Navas will take the resulting corner. Kolarov has made a darting run. It's over him, it's over Boyata. Ball by Tilic. Cadogan. He was crowded out, really. Here's Rodwell. Navas. Fernando sweeping it towards the run of Hughes. It really is a perfect day for stretching the legs, as this will definitely be for a lot of the players today. I noticed in an interview with Stevan Jovetic on the Manchester City website that he was saying that as much training and as many drills as you do, as Topalic is flagged offside, as much drills and running about as you do, nothing quite compares to match action and getting some game time into your legs. Tight one, but he had just gone too early, maybe. An assistant on the dugout side, Gavin Harris, felt that he'd strayed too far. Here's Kolarov, who I'm sure a few regular Manchester City supporters will notice is wearing a different number to what they've been used to previously, donned in the number 11 shirt. To believe that that will be his new squad number for the new season, indeed for the foreseeable future. Guidetti was trying to get on the end of that one. Guidetti, who has been one of those players over the years for Manchester City who so much has been expected and so much anticipated, and he's been hampered by some real problems, including a dreadful, debilitating virus a couple of years back. And anyone who has suffered with a virus which, even if you're at the peak of fitness, can get in the way of your progress, will know how difficult it can be sometimes to get back from it and be at the levels that you once were. And he's finding his way back to those levels of fitness because he had a wonderful season on loan in the Dutch league when he was at the peak of his powers. And there is no question that once fit again, Guidetti will be able to operate at those levels once again. Here's Navas. Now Fernando. Hughes. Bossats. Navas. Back to the teenage fullback. Here's Boyata and Fernando. And Kolarov. Denier. Fernando again, and now Rodwell and Guidetti looking to exchange passes with Rodwell, and He almost got to it, but quite tidily done by Willie Dyer. Nice combination between Rodwell and Guidetti. It's always favouring the fullback in the end, and Manchester City earned themselves a corner. And Jesus Navas will guide it towards Kolarov on the near, and he helped it towards Guidetti, but didn't quite fall for him. And the young Swede looked frustrated because it was a half a glimpse of the opponent's net. Here's Denier. Tried to slip it through for Guidetti and would have succeeded, but for a good foot in by Cadogan. Here's Thompson trying to spread it towards Cadogan. Kolarov always saw that possibility and just nudges it back to Caballero, who in truth has had precious little to do. The man signed from the former club of Manuel Pellegrini, Malaga. Manchester City have another corner. Riata's made his way up, and so too has Kolarov, just on the edge of the area. Loitering as Amir Hughes tries to attack it, and maybe got the slightest touch on it. Guidetti tried to keep it in play, was unable to. Hughes certainly a good aerially. He helped it towards that far side. Guidetti tried to get on the end of it. Well, there it is, the new Manchester City home kit. Different shade of blue and dark blue trim on the collar and sleeves. And I believe the early tweets and messages we're getting is all positive from the supporters. I think it is an annual purchase, isn't it, this time of year for supporters right across the Premier League. There seems to be almost a competition these days for who can bring out the nattiest new kit. I did notice among some of the Manchester City supporters that they seemed, one or two of them, to have some retro shirts with the likes of Colin Bell and Mike Summerby emblazoned on the back. Plenty who still remember those good old days. The two still donned in the black away kit, of course. That's a good ball, and onside as well, Conrad, but Denier read it well. Just seemed to sit up away from Conrad as he went for it, and allowed Denier the opportunity to just nip in front, and he read it well and very composed under pressure. Now here's Jovetic. Couldn't get beyond the defender. Challenged by McPake. That's above the head of the advancing Irvine. Jovetic lays it off to Navas. Navas towards Guidetti. Returns it to the Spanish international. Incidentally, if you're wondering, Alvaro Negredo is on the bench this afternoon. Manchester City have taken the free kick after Rodwell was fouled, and Jovetic tries to spread it wide to bring in Kolarov, but he was off target. Paul Hartley, the Dundee boss, appointed in February of this year. His first job was at Alloa Athletic, with whom he gained 2 successive promotions up to the Scottish Championship. And he's only 37, and there are plenty of positive feelings about his managerial talent. And when you consider that in 3 years as a manager, he's won 3 promotions with 2 different sides. That is a pretty impressive CV. Here's Fernando, who I have to say has already in the opening 18 or so minutes looked as though he has been part of the Manchester City setup all his career. Just settles nicely into that position in front of the 2 centre-halves and has been tidying things up, cutting things out, reading the game, laying it off simple for the runners in front of him. McAllister just playing it into the path of Harkins. The attempt by Tankulic to lay it back towards the advancing Harkins, and Dundee win their first corner. Not had too much to cheer about, the home supporters, but this is their first sight of the Manchester City goal from a set piece, conceded by Dedrick Boyata there, but cleared really efficiently well on that near post by Hughes. Here's Navas, Thompson dispossesses him. Rodwell, good first time ball, Guidetti's on the chase. Away by Dyer. Into the path of his goalkeeper. The goalkeeper, by the way, who only signed 2 days ago, Grant Adam. And the Dundee keeper may have a familiar name in terms of his surname, Adam. And a study of him, you might recognise the family traits. His brother is Charlie, now at Stoke City. Here's Hughes. Good tackle by McAllister, but it breaks back for Hughes, and he plays in Navas. Navas wins the corner. Jesus Navas may have had 1 or 2 injury problems at the back end of the season, but he played 48 games for City in his first year at the club, and his corner's not a bad one to Rodwell, who claims a handball. And he was certain that that was an arm that blocked his goal-bound header. I have to admit that it was his own body that masked it from me. It was difficult to tell from here, but the referee certainly was unmoved and waved play on. Jovetic, well, he tried to lay it to Kolarov, whose path was impeded. Well, Navas's delivery, Rodwell's header on the near, he believes it's a handball. Well, it gets stuck, I suppose, in the arm of the defender in front of him. I can see why Rodwell appealed. The referee felt it was accidental, and anyway, the incident's long since gone. Well, there's plenty of options on the bench this afternoon, and as I mentioned earlier, the referee says that anyone who is named on the bench has an opportunity today. There's no restriction on those who can play, and the likes of Micah Richards, Samin Nasri, Alvaro Negredo, Scott Sinclair, Gail Clichy, Matija Nastasic, plenty of players with first team experience who Manuel Pellegrini can call upon this afternoon. Samin Nasri, who just a couple of days ago put pen to paper on a new 5-year deal, which will ensure that he plays his best years at the Etihad Stadium, and both he and the club are delighted at that. Here's Navas, Denier, Kolarov, Guidetti, just caught on the heel. Claim by Thomas Conrad that he'd won the ball. And the referee, Bobby Madden, most emphatically saying he didn't. So just beyond the midpoint here at Dens Park, Dundee 0, Manchester City 0 in the first game of pre-season for the defending Premier League champions. And they have been on top for long periods, but yet to test the goalkeeper who is on his debut for the club. And Grant Haddon won't have anything to save there, as the free kick from Jovetic was blocked by the player on the end of the wall, the number 12 for Dundee, Harkins. Nice layoff by Tankulic. Dyer, well, he wanted the return. The referee says that Fernando blocked that path because his body obstructed the channel in front of Willie Dyer. Just see Fernando coming in there in the background and committing what the referee believed was a foul. Here's Thompson. That's really nicely done by McAllister. And now Dyer, headed away by Boyata, and now Rodwell. Navas. Guidetti. Foul by Conrad. It would be fantastic if John Guidetti could start to make an impact once again. He deserves a bit of good fortune after the injury and illnesses he suffered. Mark Hughes took him on loan at the January transfer window and gave him a few opportunities from the bench for Stoke City as they reached their highest ever Premier League finish. And I wouldn't be surprised if there are plenty of suitors for the name of, or the signature of John Guidetti, if he can't break into the first team plans at the Etihad Stadium. Manchester City throw. That's towards Navas. Rodwell should win it back for City. But, the drag back was nice, but unfortunately the touchline came at him at high speed. Nicely done by Adam. Just guiding it sensibly to Conrad. There's Harkins. Cadogan. Harkins again. Now Irvin. Up towards Harkins, who's been involved 3 times, and penalty, says the referee. Foul by Boyata. Dundee penalty. Well, Harkins was involved not once, not twice, but 3 times in this build-up, and as he tried to get beyond Dedrick Boyata, Boyata came in, and the referee felt that he came in illegally and awards Dundee a penalty. Now, Alexander Kolarov, as is the right of the Manchester City skipper, is asking the referee exactly why he felt that was a penalty. And really, the first time that Manchester City supporters are going to see what Willy Caballero's made of in the Manchester City goal will be his attempts to save a penalty, which he does, but the rebound goes in. Well, that was about as impactful as you can be on your debut. Caballero, guess right, made the save, but his luck was out, and Harkins tucks in the rebound, and Dundee are in front. Guess right, Caballero, and deserved better fortune than what he got, because Harkins on the rebound didn't particularly hit it well, and Caballero got to it but couldn't keep it out. Well, and it's not a bad start for Caballero, but unfortunately he has a little bit of misfortune as the penalty save goes right back to Harkins, and Dundee lead 1-0. Well, the first time that Willy Caballero touched the ball as a Manchester City goalkeeper was to deny Harkins the penalty. But, well, he'll be cursing the luck that then ensued as the ball bounced straight into the path of Harkins to dispatch the rebound. Here's Jovetic, now Guidetti. City looking to come from behind now. Navas. Dyer has been winded by Navas's cross. Here's Fernando. Now Denier. Boyata. Rodwell. Navas. Manchester City supporters behind the goal that the Blues are attacking. But the voices you can hear of those of the Dundee and the popular side who are behind the goal, behind which they have seen the ball nestle in the net. Here's Jovetic. Now Fernando. Strong tackle, the referee didn't like it. Irvin is penalised, Hughes gets up straight away, makes nothing of it. Well, the scoreline doesn't really matter when you play pre-season matches, but professional pride will tell you that Manchester City don't want to lose this game. And they have an hour or so to make sure that they do not do so today. 30th minute of the contest, Dundee ahead through a penalty that was saved, and then the rebound tucked in by Harkins. Away by Irvin. Gathered in by Navas. Beata has stayed in there. Here is Fernando, and now Jovetic. Up towards Boyata, cut out by Thompson. It's a little short on the back pass, but it was a sharp response by Grant Adam. Good tackle by Fernando as Denier was put under pressure by Tankulic. Here's Hughes. Jovetic. On towards Guidetti, just behind him. He's got that way about him, Stevan Jovetic. He is very difficult for the opposition to pick up. He takes up positions in between the lines of the midfield and the attack. The offside flag's up on the far side meanwhile, but Jovetic has been taking up those positions with regularity, trying to feed Guidetti. But it is Caballero who is the man who has been closest to making the best save of the contest, because unfortunately the second one just went beyond him after he'd stopped the penalty. Never ever blame a goalkeeper in those situations. Just blame lady luck. Here's Navas. Ossats on his overlap. Fernando. It's just behind Jovetic, you could see the intent. Thumbs up from Jovetic to Fernando for the manner in which that pass was delivered, but maybe not the execution of it. Dundee trying to play the way out from the back. Conrad getting it from Grant Adam. Here's McBride. And now McAllister. This is good football from Dundee, and the supporters are pleased with the manner in which they kept their composure, bringing it from defence into attack, but they'll be less pleased with the infield ball by Dyer. Tackle by Thompson on Hughes. Bobby Madden, the referee, says play on. Tankulic, that was blocked well. Now McBride, Thompson. Here's McPake. Guided forward by McBride. Irvin. McPake again. Well, Dundee have had their fair share of problems in recent years. They were docked 25 points in 2011 after falling into administration after a catalogue of financial problems. And it was the second time that they had been in administration in a space of a few years. But they have been steadily rebuilding since then, and 10 new signings. They've been on a training camp in Hungary up until a few days ago. And they start the season with a fresh squad and with a manager who will be embarking on his first pre-season as Dundee boss, having served his apprenticeship at Alloa Athletic and having done so with great distinction. Incidentally, Paul Hartley may be familiar to English supporters, having spent a while at both Millwall and Bristol City during his playing career. I think it's clear that Dundee have been buoyed with confidence by that opening goal, but they've been caught dwelling in possession, and Jovetic may look for a swift equaliser here. He's hit the side netting. They overplayed, if anything, there, Dundee. And the Dundee skipper Thompson was caught in possession. He tried to atone. It was McPake who got in the way of Jovetic and forced him to play it a little wider than he wanted to, and in the end the angle got narrower and narrower, and Jovetic finds the side netting. Here's the scorer, Harkins, who certainly played a significant part in the build-up that led to the penalty, and indeed he was the man fouled. Here's Jovetic now, Kolarov on his overlap. Here is Kolarov, Guidetti on the far side, but a terrific tackle by McPake. Really well timed by a player who spent 3 years at Coventry City and has recently joined from Hibernian, who have been relegated from the top division in Scotland. Here is Rodwell. Thought about hitting it, changed his mind, and then changed it back again. Shot was blocked by Thompson. Navas brings in Bossats. Navas again. On towards Guidetti. Well cleared by Dyer. And Thompson looking for the run of Tenkulic. And Oyata on the stretch got something on it, but not enough. And he'll be hoping Denier can help him out, and he can. You can't have anything other than the highest of praise for Manuel Pellegrini. It couldn't have been easy to have come in after Manchester City fell away in the title race and in their last campaign under Roberto Mancini, and lost an FA Cup final to boot. And the question marks being asked about whether Manchester City would be able to come again. Well, those questions have been well and truly answered with a double in his first full season in charge. It's never easy to take over a club, and it's even more tricky when you're taking over a club in a country where you've never managed before. Can't offer enough praise, therefore, for Manuel Pellegrini. Corner. th minute, and although the first 20 minutes or thereabouts belonged to Manchester City, it's been a much more even 20 minutes or so since. And Dundee edged the contest through Harkins, and they're going to edge it 2-0. A deflection on the shot from Tankulic. and it's spun away out of the reach of Caballero, and Dundee are 2 up. Well, I'm not sure the try list will be credited with this one. It looks like an own goal to me, it is, and is it Boyata? I think it is. Boyata, who conceded the penalty, has now conceded an own goal. Well, if I was talking about bad luck, he was a little harshly dealt with when he was penalised for the penalty, Dedrick Boyata. Well, he's now been unfortunate enough to concede an own goal for number 2. Tankulic took the accolades, but the direction of the ball was definitely changed by Dedrick Boyata. And I have to say, though he won't want it, that will go down as an own goal. What is a fact is that Dundee are 2-0 up against the champions of England. Tackle by Fernando. Bossats under pressure, Caballero gets it away. Navas has it. Here's Bossats looking towards Guidetti on the near post. Navas. Jovetic. Trying to work something with Rodwell, but McPake was in the way. Here's Navas again. He guides it up towards Guidetti, but just beyond him too. Here's Irvin. And away by Denier. Kolarov. Guidetti. Lost out to Thompson, and McBride brings it away, and you can see the spring in the step of Dundee. And the buzz around the stadium. Here's Rodwell. Navas, Bossats. Navas again. Fernando. Jovetic. Navas. Hits it with the left, it was bending, but never enough. You could see what he was thinking, the Manchester City winger. Tried to just curl it round the defender, and with the goalkeeper's view masked, perhaps bend it towards that far corner. Manchester City have enough on the bench to change their entire 11 if they fancy it, and they're all going through their limbering up exercises. Denier did well. Hassled out of it though by Harkins. McBride. Harkins again, and Cadogan. Away by Boyata. Thompson. It's out of play. Rodwell. Jovetic, and now Fernando. Space out wide for Kolarov. Here's Rodwell. Navas, Guderti. That's a free kick to Dundee for a little clip by Guderti. Well, if you're going to have bad luck and you're going to have misfortune, you might as well have it on your first day of pre-season. Manchester City, 2 behind. The first one a rebound from a penalty, which could have gone anywhere, and the second one an own goal. Poor old Dedrick Boyata involved in both of those. He conceded the penalty that Caballero saved before Harkins popped in the rebound, and it was off the back of him that the shot span away from Caballero, and Dundee were 2 to the good. Kolarov, meanwhile, has lost the ball. Here's Jovetic. It's a good turn. Looking towards Guderti. Now Rodwell. Jesus Navas. Now Bossats. Navas again. Jovetic towards the Spanish international. So well defended by Willie Dyer. And gathered in by Grant Adam. Not had too much to do. The Dundee debutant in goal. Just a flop on the ball, really, after Navas was muscled out of it by Dyer. Comes Tankulic. He would like to claim that second goal, but I don't think he'll be able to. As Caballero gathers in the cross. Here's Hughes. Up towards Jovetic. Couldn't quite stretch far enough. So he is delighted with the attempt by Hughes. Well, there it is, a half-time scoreline that few would have predicted and seemed particularly improbable after Manchester City started so brightly. But the first meaningful touch for Caballero in the Manchester City goal was to deny Harkins from the penalty spot. The only problem was it span back and Harkins dispatched the rebound, and Dundee led 1-0, and then after Boyata had been the man who conceded the penalty, he was then the unfortunate man to deflect a shot from Tankulic, which just hit the back of him, changed the direction of the ball, and nestled in the corner of Caballero's goal. And at half-time at Dens Park, in Manchester City's first pre-season fixture of 2014-15, it is Dundee 2, Manchester City 0. Welcome back to Dens Park in Dundee. Half-time between Manchester City and the hosts, Dundee FC. And the Premier League champions find themselves 2-0 down, albeit in very unfortunate circumstances. But the first thing to mention is that the 11 who started have now been replaced for Manchester City. And there is a brand new 11 who are trying to undo the damage of the first half. And, well, there is not too much significance attached to the result of a pre-season friendly, but I don't think Manchester City will want to lose it nonetheless. Just to complete the statistics, Dundee have made 3 changes of their own. And as we go through the opening few minutes of the second half, we'll guide you through those who have come on for both Manchester City and Dundee. So City trailing courtesy of a Harkins goal after his penalty was saved by Caballero and an own goal by Dedrick Boyata. Manchester City have the likes of Micah Richards and Samir Nasri, Alvaro Negredo all out there. There's Richards with his first touch. Scott Sinclair, Javi Garcia, Gal Clichy, Matija Nastasic and Karim Rekik. And a couple of young players who might be a little more unfamiliar to you. Greg Lee, who is a EDS graduate, a left-back by trade. He's represented England at many of the junior levels. And Bruno Zuccolini, who Manchester City have just acquired, young Argentinian. Years old, wearing number 36, Bruno Zuccolini, and there he is on the ball, a very talented midfield player who has a tremendous passing range. Here's Javi Garcia, and now Micah Richards. He's one of the most popular players among Manchester City supporters, Micah Richards, but I think both he and indeed the City supporters are wondering where his future might lie as Zuccolini tries to put City back into the game, and he almost succeeded in doing so, and it was just smuggled away by Grant Adam in the end. Well, that's the best chance Manchester City have had, created by Micah Richards, and Zuccolini almost managed to grab a goal within the first few minutes of his new City career. But in the end, it was smothered away by the man who's just made the catch, Grant Adam. And his throw out was poor, the goalkeeper. Here's Samir Nasri. And it's a City corner. Just to run you through the Dundee changes, Ian Davidson, Peter MacDonald and Philip Roberts have come on. Jim McAllister, Kevin Thompson and Gary Irvine has come off. Have come off, I should say. City have Rekik and now Richards. Here's Zuccolini. Here's Nasri. Here's Hughes. We were told all 11 changes would be made at half-time. Just checking through, and Emir Hughes and Willy Caballero are still out there. So just 9 changes made by City. I'm sure it won't be too long before the other 2 are made as well. Here is Greg Lee. Looks as though the 2 who haven't come on just yet are Scott Sinclair and indeed Richard Wright, the goalkeeper. Just looking through the other option available, Gal Clichy is also still available. Manchester City had 23 players named in their squad, and all of whom it seems will play a part today. Always difficult to keep track of substitutions during a pre-season friendly. I hope you'll bear with us as we get confirmation. There were no sort of... you can imagine what the fourth official does in terms of trying to get the board up to show in total 12 changes during the half-time interval. I think his fingers would need a rest pretty soon. Just looking out there, Scott Sinclair has indeed come on, so it's just Gal Clichy and Richard Wright who haven't for Manchester City. Caballero and Hughes remain from the first half 11. One change that's definitely been made is that of Zuccolini, who's come on and almost scored with his first touch in Manchester City colours. 20-year-old signed from Racing Club, Argentinian, and comes with a very, very exciting reputation, but we'll come back to that in a minute as a try-list for Dundee in the name of Luka Tankrilic, who was impressive in the first half and claimed the second goal, albeit that it was attributed to an own goal by Dedrick Beata, and rightly so, and he was looking sharp again. Here is Rekik, who has been a very impressive player when he was on loan last season in the Dutch League. Spent a year learning more about his profession with PSV Eindhoven, and was one of their players of the season last year, as Negredo spreads the ball out wide to Scott Sinclair, who will be as keen as anyone else out there to make an impression. He was loaned, of course, last season to West Brom and didn't play too often for them. Sami Nasri has got very little to prove. He had an exceptional campaign for Manchester City, has been rewarded for those efforts with a 5-year deal, which will make him one of Manchester City's longest-serving players by the end of that contract. Here is Matija Nastasic, who had a really torrid season, really plagued by injuries, having established himself as Vincent Kompany's centre-half partner. But unfortunately, one or two really difficult injuries, and that he was unable to get any kind of consistency or freedom in his play. Indeed, Martin Dimichelis is likeliest to be Vincent Kompany's centre-half partner come the start of the new season, albeit that said, Manchester City are being linked with a number of centre-halves as we speak. French international Mangala has been widely reported as being a Manchester City target, as Greg Lee plays in a corner and Manchester City have themselves a corner.
Number 14, Colin Reynolds, and number 19. Number 19.
Manchester City corner, palmed away well by Grant Adam. Here's Sami Nasri. Here's Nastasic. Nice turn by Samir Nasri. Nice feet from Samir Nasri, but his shot was charged down, and the header from Negredo over the top of the bar. Well, of all the players who weren't selected for their international sides during the World Cup, the fact that Samir Nasri was left out of the French squad by Didier Deschamps certainly raised a few eyebrows. But France's loss is Manchester City's gain, and they'll have a very fresh player. And Manuel Pellegrini will be delighted that that is the case. The likes of James Milner and Joe Hart, of course, knocked out in the group stages. David Silva the same. Edin Dzeko participated in all 3 matches for Bosnia, and they too came home at that stage. There are a number of players who have gone into the last week of the World Cup, and of course, while Fernandinho was part of the side who were humiliated by Germany for Brazil on Tuesday night, and obviously were involved in the 3rd-4th playoff last evening. Zabaleta, Di Michelis and Aguero have a memorable couple of hours ahead of them tonight as they attempt to become world champions for Argentina. Here's Rekik, who was part of the initial squad named for the World Cup by Manchester United manager Louis van Gaal. Certainly we can call him that now, after the Dutch finished their World Cup campaign last night with that 3-0 win against Brazil. Rekik surely destined to be a regular for Holland in the not too distant future, and maybe a regular for Manchester City too. There'll be a lot of fierce competition for the back 4 come the start of the campaign. Here is McBride, now Cadogan. Partly looking to make another change. Looks like 3 changes are afoot. Here's Lee. Zuccalini. Now Garcia. Richards. It's just beyond the run of Cadogan. Looks as though there are 5 Dundee changes about to take place. We'll do our utmost to guide you through them. Harkins is the first to make way. McPake, I think, is coming off as well. #22 Cadogan is coming off as well. Tankulic has gone off as well. More significantly, let's guide you through who's come on. Kyle Benedictus has come on, number 17. Peter McDonald has gone on up front, number 9. might sound like an excuse, but there are two players who've come on who aren't on the team sheet for Dundee, which makes a commentator's life quite entertaining, I can assure you. We will do our utmost to find out who they are for you. The joys of pre-season friendlies, I'm afraid. Paul McGinn has just come on for Dundee. And Martin Boyle has come on as well. And they're the two players who weren't on the Dundee team sheet before the start of play. Anyway, one player who was on the team sheet is Samir Nasri, and you wouldn't mistake him. Nasri and now Lee. Into Negredo. Nice play by Negredo. Nasri! And well held by Grant Adam. Well, it had to be hit first time by Nasri, and he opened up his body and tried to just guide it round the goalkeeper. And at first it looked like he'd got it just exactly how he wanted it, but it was just maybe a couple of feet too close to Adam, who grasped it to his chest. Here's Hughes. Dundee 2, Manchester City 0, the same scoreline as it was at half-time. Manchester City have made 9 changes, but haven't managed to alter the scoreline. Zuccalini certainly looked sharp on a couple of occasions. Nasri with a bending shot. 1 or 2 pluses for City, that's for sure. Here's Nasri. They'll want to at least find the opponent's net today, if nothing else, even if they don't attach too much significance to the scoreline. It's worth bearing in mind that Alvaro Negredo hasn't scored a goal since January, so if anybody among the City ranks wants the feeling of putting the ball against the opponent's net, it has to be him. Hughes tried to find Negredo, couldn't do it. Here's Zuccalini, now Javi Garcia. Sinclair away to the right-hand side. Zuccalini. Nasri on towards Negredo. It's onside, Alvaro Negredo. And just flipped away by the goalkeeper. Not sure if it was going to creep in or not, but Grant Adam was taking no chances and sensibly thrust out a palm and helped it on its way. Good timing on the run by Negredo. Out for a corner. Negredo jumps, and his header is off target. Alvaro Negredo grabbed himself 23 goals until the 21st of January, but then grabbed none in his next 16 appearances, although a number of them were off the bench. Couple more changes made by the Dundee manager, Paul Hartley.
Double substitution for Dundee, number 24, another 25, replacing number 3, William Dyer, and number 4, Silence.
Dundee have had a number of trialists at the club in the last few days as they've tried to assemble their squad for the new campaign, and 1 or 2 of them hadn't really been assigned any squad numbers, and I'm afraid the 2 who've just come on are not on the team list. Such are the joys of pre-season commentary, I have to say. But if there are Manchester City changes, we'll inform you of them. 9 made at the interval. Here's Nicky Riley. Now Davidson. Back to Grant Adam, who was only signed 2 days ago. Stasic getting it away. Here's Zuccolini, leaves it for Greg Lee. Now Rekik. Nastasic. Zuccolini looking for the angle ball towards Emir Hughes. It looks like it's a beauty. Micah Richards in support. Sinclair and Negredo by the penalty spot. Here's Zuccolini. Losing out though to MacDonald. Here's McGinn. Forward by Benedictus, cut out though by Nastasic, and Lee helping it away further. Here's Garcia. City losing out again. Riley, right across the face of goal. Roberts keeps it alive. Garcia keeps his head and sweeps it out to Scott Sinclair. Nicely done, skipping inside McGinn. And the door firmly slammed in his face by Benedictus. Boyle. Tackle by Nastasic. Zuccolini. Manchester City have 6 minutes to try and get their first goal of pre-season. Here's Sami Nasri. On towards Sinclair, it's good pace on the pass. Sinclair getting round the outside, but shoveling it over the bar. He did well to get beyond the last defender, didn't he? But having got beyond McGinn, couldn't control his shot. There's so many positives for the Dundee boss, Paul Hartley. He's had a number of trialists out there who've impressed. He's made several substitutions and he is preparing well for the Scottish Premier League season, which begins the week before the English Premier League season. They're a side used to winning as well, which is no bad thing, having come with a terrific run to win the Scottish Championship and get promoted. They'll not lack confidence when they begin their Scottish Premier League campaign in a month or so's time. And results like this will certainly make them have even more self-belief. Offside flag is up. Boyle kept it alive, but he was flagged. Oh, he's unlucky, isn't he? I don't think he was offside, Boyle. Anyway, I don't think it's going to affect the outcome of this game too much. Manchester City are going to begin pre-season with a 2-0 defeat, it seems. Here's Rekik. Nasri. Sinclair. Nastasic. Lee. Nasri. Handed away by McGinn, gathered in by Sinclair, who was fouled. Nasri clips it forward, Garcia is offside, and Negredo fires it up into the jubilant Dundee supporters.
Ladies and gentlemen, we can ask you please to remain your seats after the game as
I'm not sure who was flagged offside there.
the Angus Trophy Centre Cup will be presented after the game.
Well, in fairness, even assistants need to get into their stride, and for them it's pre-season too. Here is Lee. Nasri. Neatly done. Here's Roberts. Keek with a tackle. Hughes and Willie Caballero are going to get 90 minutes under their belt. While Negredo's flagged offside. He was linked with a move away from Manchester City in the papers. Atletico Madrid appear to be in line to sign him, but however much truth was in that, they've now signed Mario Mandzukic from Bayern Munich to replace Diego Costa, who of course has gone to Chelsea. Here's Nastasic. Beyond Nasri, cleared by Davidson. MacDonald. Flag was up, referee allows it to go to Caballero, and a glance at his watch will tell him that the 90 minutes are all but up. And maybe just one more chance for Dundee by the look of it. Cut out though by Nastasic. So there you are, Manchester City have begun their pre-season preparations with a 2-0 defeat, but in reality, you can't ever attach too much significance to the result of pre-season friendlies, and even less significance to the first one of pre-season. A couple of goals in the first half after Caballero had saved Harkin's penalty. The rebound then went back to the number 12, the midfielder for Dundee, who tucked in the rebound. And then after a shot was about to be saved by Caballero, it flicked off the legs of the unfortunate Dedrick Boyata. Dundee were 2 up and Manchester City couldn't find a goal for themselves. Plenty of positives in terms of game time and in terms of the younger players having an opportunity to play with their senior colleagues. And as I say, not too much significance, I'm sure, will be felt to this result by Manuel Pellegrini. But the final score here at Dens Park, Dundee 2, Manchester City 0.